Our name is ghosts want you dead. As we fall further into a darkness of our own making, we must confront the specters of our past and the illusions of our future.
Hello, I'm Matthew,
And I'm Rebecca.
and here we are again to talk about our favorite 1960s soap opera.
It's pretty great. And we're here every week.
Would you care to remind us what happened last week?
Well, I don't remember what happened last week.
There was a ghost.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
Ghost.
last week, little David of the Damn Corn locked Vicky in a secret room. Carolyn was maybe gonna bang Burke and had dumped Joe. Vicky was lost and stuck in this room. The last part that you said at the beginning is that while Vicky was all locked up last week, she saw a ghost, a real ghost, the ghost of Bill Malloy. And there was seaweed and sparkles, and we sang a fun song about it. And I hope you all enjoyed that. And that is what happened last week.
I guess we can just jump right into the show. Episode 86. Victoria Winters reminds us that she is locked up in the closed wing. David creeps down the stairs in the foyer looking awfully satisfied with himself, and Liz enters to ask if he knows where Vicky is, and he doesn't. He has
Me?
no idea.
No. He's like,
But
gosh, I
does
sure don't.
also add that he doesn't care if she ever turns up.
Yeah. He's like, fuck that bitch.
Meanwhile, Vicky is bargaining through the locked door to an absent David, promising that she won't tell on him if he lets her out. Opening credits. David and Liz and Roger enter the drawing room. Liz is concerned about Vicky. Roger is concerned that Carolyn went out in the storm late in the night. David suggests that Vicky may have been snatched by a ghost. This pisses Liz off, so she sends him off to bed. But he pauses on the stairs to tell the camera that nobody is ever going to find Miss Victoria Winters. I expected him to say it 2 or 3 times like he likes to
He does like
do,
to
but he
repeat,
didn't.
but he did have to give us that. It was pretty good.
Anyway, Liz tells Roger about Carolyn's little temper fit and boy problems, but Roger is on Carolyn's
Yeah,
side
he's like,
with
good
all of
for
that.
her. I don't want her dating them pores. Like, yeah, he's glad that she's out having fun. Although I doubt he'd be happy.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of, at Burke's hotel room, he and Carolyn enter, and she is clearly just pleased as punch that she may be finally getting in Burke Devlin's pants. And they discuss her fight with Joe a little bit, and they flirt, and the lightning flashes, and the thunder cracks. Burke suggests they put on some sweet, tunes, as it were.
So sweet too.
But the radio instead announces that the roads are flooding from the storm and there are highway closures, at which Carolyn beams like, "Oh no, I might have to stay the night,
Yeah, she's
but
pretty
I
sad.
didn't bring any pajamas."
Yeah, it's she's excited to
Back
bed the bird. They're cozying up on the couch, and she's like, "Oh, well, we could talk about your past." And then he starts talking about ladies of his past, and she's like, "Oh, I'd rather talk about your future." They stare sexily at each other for a minute, but then it cuts to David's crystal ball, and it's funny. It's like, "Future, haha."
Yeah, there are a couple
It
of
was a fun one.
instances of them doing clever little cuts
Yeah,
in
no, it
this.
was precious, and I liked it.
I forget what the other one is, but it was funny. Anyway, with David and his crystal ball, Roger walks in on him predicting the future and warns him that Liz will be mad when she finds out he isn't in bed. But David insists that he's busy looking for who killed Bill, and Liz would want to know that. This annoys Roger.
And Roger says he should ask where Vicky is, and he says when he tries, the ball gets foggy and he can't see.
And clearly at this point, Roger is like, oh no, that little shit killed the governor.
Yeah. 100% he is convinced that
We
that
gotta
might be it.
find her at the bottom of that cliff.
Is she gonna be on Murder Cove, or what were you calling it?
Murder Beach.
Murder Beach, Murder Cove. Anyway, Roger tells him to go ahead and ask Crystal Ball, and then David was very cute. He's all, Crystal Ball. He gets nothing. And then Roger says maybe he should, ask himself instead of the ball, because clearly he knows what's up.
Back in Ghost Jail, Vicky is looking anguished and she's laying dramatically on the cot. But then there's a creaking noise which rouses her and she resumes talking to David through the door. But David is not out there. Back in Burke's room, they're still just hanging out and talking, and everybody is still dressed because stupid 1960s broadcast standards.
Right.
Back in the drawing room, Roger is wandering out back into the foyer, still trying to get David to fess up to whatever he's done to Vicky. Liz enters and she produces the key to the closed off wing, which she found on David's desk, and she wants to know where he got it. First, he insists that he's never seen it before in his life and doesn't know what that
Right.
could possibly be the key to.
And she's like, well, I'm gonna go try it then.
She starts up the stairs to see if it opens the door she thinks it will open, and at that point, David is like, "No, it is that key, but I haven't ever used it. I just found it."
And Liz does a very peculiar thing, which was just an odd bit of writing, but it made me laugh because she's like, well, now that you've told me that you found it and you've never ever used it for anything nefarious, not ever, then I must believe you. And just kisses him on the head and swans
She
off.
kisses him on the
I thought
mouth.
she'd on the mouth.
Yeah.
Ugh, well, she kisses him. And well, I mean, I guess that's not that weird. Although it's just she hasn't been around him all that much. But that whole family with their mouth kissing. Anyway, she goes up to put it with the rest of her spooky keys. She's like, go to spooky key drawer, and she's gonna go put it in with the rest. Roger is not so easily swayed, and he's like, as you said, oh shit, this kid has done something with the governess, and now he assumes he knows where.
And he
might
tells
be.
David this.
Yeah.
Like after Liz leaves, Roger tells David to ask the crystal ball if he believes him, because he doesn't, because he clearly killed that governess. Back in Burke's room, still nothing much is happening yet. Burke is telling some silly yarn that he works around to being a fable about he and Carolyn.
And is basically winding her up, only
He's trying to trick her
Yeah.
into thinking that he is romantically interested in her, but they shouldn't do anything about it because her family would disapprove, so she should go
yeah.
home.
So he's manipulating her.
She angrily collects her things, but then apologizes and said she had a wonderful time, and they make plans to date, I guess.
Yes, and he kisses her, but very chastely, as you said, just a little peck.
And then she exits silently, dumbfounded. She's
Yeah,
just like,
she's like, oh my God. Yeah, she says she had the best night, and he says, can we have a few more? And then after she leaves, father like son or potential son, he likes to exposition to the camera as well all of his evil plans. And he's like, you better be a good swimmer, because soon you're going to find yourself in a whirlpool and the only way will be down. Yeah, it was a very similar trick to what David did earlier. And I thought it was funny. Although Maggie gets a turn too. And I thought that's what they're doing this week.
Back in the drawing room, Roger pours himself a drink and toasts to Vicky wherever she may be, because he clearly thinks she's dead at this point.
Yeah.
Back in her makeshift prison, Vicky is wandering and looking for possible ways to escape to no avail. She has what seems like a good idea where she slides a sheet of paper under the door and then tries to knock the key onto it so that she can pull it under the door and let herself out, but the key is too fat and just won't fit under the door for that trick to work. So she crumples up the paper and crumples to the floor herself and bangs on the door.
Oh,
End credits.
defeated like, yeah. Episode 87, Victoria Winters reminds us that she is locked up in Collinwood and losing her marbles.
And also, Collinwood is big and old,
And creepy.
like us.
Yeah. All of those things.
So Vicky is locked up with the ghosts. Downstairs, Roger is pacing in the foyer to the ticking of the clock. Vicky is matching his pacing in the locked room to the ticking of the ghosts.
Into the ticket of the ghost.
Opening
cute.
credits. The clock strikes 1 a.m. as Carolyn returns home. Roger is kind of scolding her for coming in so late and worrying her poor mother, but Carolyn fills Roger in on the gossip about Maggie and Joe. Over at Maggie's, she and Joe are having a nice time, and she's impressing Joe with her encyclopedic knowledge of boats, which I assumed you would have something to say about.
Joe is telling her sailor stories when we first go over there, which does kind of sound like a dreamy date. Like he's regaling her with tales of the sailing, and she goes to get them more coffee and says, "We have one thing in common, boats." And they flirt a bit after that, but with some internalized misogyny. I don't remember specifically. It was just like, oh, boats, they're like ladies because or what does a lady and a boat have in common? Yeah, it was why are boats named after ladies or called she? And Maggie's like, oh, I know that one. It's because women are inconsistent and you never know what we're gonna do. And yeah, he's quizzing her about boats and she rattles off a bunch of boat stuff. And he's like, oh, a pretty girl likes video games. Ooga. Like he's just like, whoa. Carolyn never talked about boats like you talk about boats. She wouldn't have known a boat. And that is something I thought was annoying. Like you're on a date with a guy and he's like, well, my ex would have
Talking
never.
about this
It's
other
like,
bitch, yeah.
please just don't talk about that lady.
During the conversation after that, they're talking about how Joe has ambitions to buy his own boat, and
Yeah. And
she's mourning the fact that, well, we used to have money, but my dad squandered it all on alcohol.
otherwise, I'd be your partner. And he's like, well, you're much prettier than my last partner. And she decides at that moment that she's going to swipe drunk old daddy's brandy and liquor Joe up in their coffee.
During that conversation, we get a dollar amount for essentially the buy off that Roger gave Sam to help him frame Bert.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, I
And we
forgot we
learned
got that number.
we learned that it was
$15,000.
$15,000, which Maggie is talking about like it is a fortune. And in today's money, $15,000 would be about $150,000, which wouldn't even buy you a house in most states
Yeah.
these days. So it's not like that's a lot of money. That would be a down payment on a house on a coast.
Yeah.
So I just found that amusing. But Maggie and Joe are adorable.
They are. I love them a bunch. And he follows her over. She says, won't you join me? As she goes to get the brandy, and he follows her over and kind of gets up close behind her and starts singing the
What shall we do with the drunken sailor?
song, which is hot. And Maggie's like, I know exactly what I'm gonna do with the drunken sailor, sir. She is ready.
Back in the drawing room, Carolyn reveals to Roger that she spent the evening with Burke. He's annoyed, but more interested in the fact that Burke and Sam were together at the Blue Whale. And also, he's pissed that she's trying to steal his old boyfriend.
Exactly.
And they wonder aloud whatever might have happened to Vicky, and Roger implies that she may have died because he clearly thinks Rick David killed her. Carolyn is suddenly concerned when earlier she did not care one tiny bit.
Yeah. Roger dismisses it and sends her to bed, and Roger kisses Carolyn goodnight in an almost as chaste way as Burke did.
Close up on the clock in the foyer. It is 2:15, which we may or may not need to know for any reason. I think they're just trying to establish Vicky's been locked in that room for like 6 hours. She
Yeah.
must be on the verge of death, being
Right.
locked in a room with food.
David's like, I got you, girl. You got canned goods and this one candle, the magic candle.
Yeah, that
magic ghost
candle
candle.
sure do last a long time for
It
having just
does.
been a little nub to begin with.
It's true.
Roger is peering dramatically out the window as the storm rages on.
Back at Maggie's, Joe's like, oh shit, I gotta go home. And he thanks her for a lovely dinner, and they flirt a little at the door. She clearly wants to kiss him, but he's kind of jumpy and hesitant. But he leans in and kisses her on the cheek and leaves.
Maggie swoons, and it is adorable, but
Mhm. She joins the ranks of Burke and David and pans to the camera and says, good night, pal, and then looks real sad and bummed and makes a face, and I feel that.
well, I mean, it is relatable, but also you are the one pursuing someone that is already in a relationship.
Yeah, it's true. If he's not, done with that, he's not gonna be available for you, girl. But
Back in the drawing room, the lightning continues, and Roger wanders back into the foyer and he starts to creep up the stairs. But then he turns back and regards the clock, and he goes back into the drawing room and turns off the light, and then he grabs a flashlight from a drawer, and then he opens a secret passage.
which is so much fun. I was like, oh my God, there's a secret passage in the drawing. I knew it. I knew it. It's in the wood paneling over by the telephone, between the telephone and the fireplace. For those of you who know what the drawing room looks like, I love it so much. It was very exciting.
Yes, and Roger creeps into his
does.
secret passage. Directly after this, Carolyn wanders back downstairs in the dumbest little girl nightgown
Yeah.
and is surprised to find Roger no longer in the drawing room, which, if he had gone up, he would have passed her on the stairs. But anyway, she's just like, oh, well, and goes upstairs. Meanwhile, Roger is stalking the halls of the closed wing with his flashlight, batting away cobwebs, and the score gets very suspenseful, which is silly because we all know what is about to
Yeah,
happen.
it's true. It was at this point that I realized he may have known or suspected where she's been this whole time and has just been giving her ample time to be sure she's extra crazy by the time he finds her, which, benefits him. Because again, we didn't talk about this in the recap, but Vicky knows about all the business with the pen that could point to him losing it at Murder Beach. And so he's, probably just been letting her cook for these 6 hours or however long that he's known about it.
While Roger continues to creep in the dusty dark for a few minutes, meanwhile, in her jail, Vicky is tossing and turning dramatically on the cot, and Roger continues to wander the dark halls, and he ascends a spiral staircase, and Vicky hears noises in the hall, so she starts yelling for David again, and Roger hears. So he approaches the locked door and he picks up the fallen key that she had tried to retrieve and he pockets it. You
Yeah.
liked this bit, so I figured
Oh, it tickled me. He put the key in his pocket. You do think he is just gonna go let her out. And he takes the key and he puts it in his pocket and proceeds to make a bunch of noise to scare her instead.
he throws a vase to the ground and he raps on the
Yeah.
door with a cane if he finds it the
And
hard
then
way.
he's
And then
oh, it's so good. And he has this crazy ghost voice. And it's just
he
like,
goes, Victoria Winter.
leave Cornwall and never come back. And it's so and very unexpected, and it made me very happy. And then he immediately, I would have given it a minute, but he immediately opens the door. She's going crazy and freaking out in there. And he opens the door and he's shining the flashlight in. She's like, who is it? And he takes the flashlight down and he's all, Vicky, you're all right. And
Thank God I
thank
found
God I
you.
found you. And she's sobbing in his arms. And he's like, it's all right. It's all okay now, dear. Which is weird and gross. And she tells him, what David did. And she's hysterical, reasonably so. And he's saying, well, let's talk about it all later. Let's get out of here. And she says, that's not all. I saw a ghost and it told me to leave. And at first, I think he's thinking, oh, well, yeah, I was a ghost just now. But she tells more details about it. And she's like, and there was seaweed and it was Bill Malloy and dun, 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 end credits.
I read that a little differently than you. The first time that I watched this, when he picks up the key, I don't think he's going to let her out. I think he's just gonna pick up the key and leave her in there and let her starve. So I was surprised
Mm.
when he let her out.
No, I mean, that makes sense too. I just went in my mind, I thought, okay, he's gonna use this time she's been crazy in there to encourage her to leave. And he was just waiting for her to have enough time in there for it to be super scary.
Episode 88. Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood is haunted as fuck, as she has previously been told, but now she believes it.
Also, she's traumatized.
Vicky is in her nightgown question mark in the drawing room.
So we had a discussion about this because at first I thought it was maybe a nightgown, but then was like, no, it's a dress. But it looks like a dress that's more from the late 60s, early 70s. Kind of could also be a nightgown.
I couldn't tell. I had to ask,
Yeah.
is that a nightgown or an ugly dress?
I don't think it's an ugly dress, but it is different than the more standard earlier 60s styles they've been wearing. So
Structured kind of
yeah,
things. It's
it's loose
too
and flowy.
flowy to be like the normal clothes she wears, but it is modest enough that
Yeah.
it's not clearly night clothes. It's
Well, and I suppose it does make sense if she's had a hard time to be wearing a soft house dress of some kind. But I've had dresses similar to it that are from the 70s or late 60s, but it could have easily been a nightgown too.
well, anyway,
I
but
could talk, we could have a whole
she,
separate fashion podcast for the dark shadows.
well, it would be all you because I don't know nothing about none of that.
I like
Uh,
fashion.
Anyway, Vicky may not be wearing a nightgown, and she's in the drawing room talking with Carolyn. She's explaining about having seen the ghost. And Liz is eavesdropping from behind, and her jaw drops open when Vicky says that the ghost was Bill. Liz is shocked and said that's just nonsense, but Vicky disagrees and also quits her job.
Yeah, Liz is very dismissive of the ghost. Also, David's little prank. And Vicky was very much like, that's bullshit, and y'all are bullshit. And she tells Liz that she's gonna leave, or Liz and Carolyn both that she's gonna leave.
And then Roger comes in and chimes in that he definitely agrees and that she really ought to leave for her own safety. So Liz shoos Vicky and Carolyn out and demands to know why Roger wants to get rid of Vicky. And also they go over some of the details of him discovering Vicky the night before which he lies about. He pointedly does not reveal his secret passage to Liz. He lies and says that the door upstairs was just unlocked. And Liz does finally start to worry a little bit about the fact that David is maybe a little psycho.
Is that where Roger says that he's a psycho, or is that later?
I think that's a little later. Back in Vicky's room, she's laying down, still in the same outfit, so maybe it is a nightgown. And Carolyn knocks to come in and beg her not to leave. Also to humble brag about, well, I would have been more worried about you being missing if
But
I
I was with
wasn't in Burke's
her.
hotel room.
Yeah.
Just so you know where I was.
Right. And so, Vicky was a little bit like, didn't anyone miss me? And then Carolyn uses that to talk about Burke and Joe, and they fight a little. And Vicky sort of sets Carolyn straight and is just like, listen, you have been awful to Joe, and he's allowed to be done with your bullshit. And
Well, it's not really so much of a fight as Vicky calls Carolyn out on all of her shit regarding Burke and Joe. And instead of turning that into a fight like she normally would, Carolyn is just kind of like, yeah, you got me.
yeah, that's true. Anyway, she does say that she was worried once she knew, and Vicky says she feels sorry for David, because he can't get away from Collinwood, but she fucking can, and she's gonna. She is ready. Carolyn continues to beg her to stay, and Vicky just isn't about it. Downstairs, Liz and Roger are talking, and Liz asks Roger if he's maybe ever really seen a real ghost. He says he's felt things and seen things he can't explain, but nothing definitive. He then suggests they go to the secret room and look around for ghost droppings. And so they do.
Back in Vicky's room, Carolyn is explaining to Vicky that she's the only person that she can talk to about Burke because
Yeah.
everybody else hates him. And
Yep.
well, you can't possibly leave because I need someone to moon over Burke at.
Yeah.
In the closed off wing, Liz and Roger make their way to Ghost Jail, and we get lots of dramatic close ups of the cobwebs along the way. And they argue about ghosts and psycho children. Roger tells Liz, like, David is a little psychopath and Vicky should leave because he might hurt her. Also, he is doubting Vicky having seen a ghost right as Liz discovers the pile of ghost seaweed. Dun dun dun!
Dun, dun.
Roger and Liz descend the foyer stairs into the drawing room, and Liz is still clutching the ghost seaweed. And does she throw it into the
She
fire?
does. And
Okay.
it crackles. And she says that, they went up there for evidence and Bill has given them evidence. And Roger is like, do you really think it was a ghost? And Liz is like, well, where'd that seaweed come from? Like, but the seaweed. The girls come in and Carolyn says, Mom, convince her to stay, and is trying to get Liz to make Vicky stay, and she says she can't do that, but does tell Vicky that she doesn't want her to go and is sweet to her. But still, I feel like a little dismissive of everything that has happened. Roger says she ought to go, and Vicky says she doesn't want to decide anything until she talks to David, because David hates her most of all. And so she wants to know why and figure out why he locked her away. End credits.
Episode 89. Victoria Winters reminds us Collinwood is old and creepy and haunted, like us.
Yep.
At the hotel, Burke is puzzling over something on his desk when Mr. Blair hands him a sheet of paper. They're discussing prices of something, and then Burke solves that mystery for us by insisting that he is going to buy the Logansport Fishing Enterprises. That's the fishing fleet and the canneries. Opening credits. In the drawing room, Roger is yelling at Liz about how Vicky is crazy and they gotta get her out of there because who knows what she might do.
Even though
since
5 minutes ago he was saying David is dangerous and could hurt Vicky and, like, he's a little psychopath, now he's flipped the script and is like,
well, Liz didn't
Vicky's
go for that, so
dangerous and delusional and a threat to David.
they're interrupted by the telephone, and it is a Mr. Garner, who is one of Liz's lawyers, calling to inform her that Burke has put in an offer on the Collinsport fishing businesses, and she's real mad and determined to stop him, so she's ready to outbid him or stop him some other way, and she tells Roger this, and Roger's like, outbid him with what money? We are not all that rich. We're just stuck with this crumbling mansion.
Yeah.
Back in Burke's room, he's asking Blair how long this deal is going to take. Then I stopped paying attention for a minute.
Well, Blair thinks he's underestimating Liz and kind of seems a little bit like, are you sure you want to do all this with your evil plan and your schemes? And then he invites a whole bunch of fellas over, and I guess they're all the dudes that work for. I was
They're not
unclear.
all of the dudes.
They're a
They're
bunch of
just like
dudes.
the managers that work for Liz.
Yeah.
And
He tells the men that he's going to buy Logan Fishery, Cannery, whatever.
Logan's Port
Yeah, that.
Fishing Enterprises.
And he's brought them to offer them a business opportunity. One of the dudes says that he's staying with the Collinses and he's loyal. And then Burke is music manning them over to his side with profit sharing proposals. And everyone suddenly is like, oh, really? Profit sharing and not just,
Except for that one
Yeah.
guy.
No, the one guy is like, enough of this. I smell a rat.
Back over at Collinwood, Liz is staring dramatically out of a window while she and Roger theorize about how they could thwart Burke. She is confident that her employees will be loyal when Roger suggests he might try and poach them. Back in Burke's room, he is still continuing to try and poach them. Back in the drawing room, the Collins siblings are continuing the same conversation when a knock at the door reveals Amos, the Matthew look-alike that has just come from Burke's room, and explains what had happened. Liz is grateful for the snitching and dismisses him. Back in Burke's room, the other fishmen have left, and it's just him and Blair.
Blair thinks he's being reckless and thinks Amos will tell the Collinses about his plan. Burke's like, that's exactly what I want. I want to torture them and poke them and get them and burn them. Like, he goes on about his plans, and Blair seems a
He's
little
not
bit.
into it.
Yeah,
He's like, what you're doing here is dumb and not gonna work, and also it's mean.
Yeah, he's
So Burke
not really
pays
on
him
board.
off.
Yeah,
Burke
so
gives him $1,000, so that's $10,000 in today money.
to be like,
And suddenly Blair's back on board.
yeah, yes, sir. I think we should take those Collinses for all they're worth. Yeah, he's like, sure, fine, I'll take your money. Yes, I'm loyal. Good night. I'll leave you to your evil masterminding. Like, whatever, dude. Just
Burke
give me that green.
Burke finishes his drink as the phone rings, and it's Liz calling to tell him that he's a jerk.
Yeah, she's like, you suck, and I'm gonna fight you tooth and nail, Buster. And that's essentially the phone call. He's confident that he's gonna take them for all they're worth.
End credits.
Also, Liz says to Roger, it's Burke or us. But yeah. Episode 90. Victoria Winters reminds us she's not sure if she's going to leave Collinwood, but she's going to talk to her captor David about it first. I guess she has Stockholm Syndrome already.
David enters her room as she is packing her things, and he seems oddly sad, but she calls him on all his insane behavior. He's like, but I didn't mean it. And she wants to know, well, what didn't you mean?
Yeah, and he's like, I didn't mean all of it. I would come to your funeral. And this part made me laugh so hard. She's like, why would you come to my funeral? And he's like, because I like funerals. Oh, we had a good laugh at that one.
David is a little creep.
Yeah.
And
Opening credits.
He is impressed when Vicky tells him about how she saw the ghost of Bill Malloy, and suddenly he likes her and wants her to stay now that she's seen a ghost, because no one else has ever believed him about the ghosts, and now she knows they're real, so they can be friends.
He's like, "You can't leave now, we're ghost twins." He's so excited.
Carolyn walks in on David begging Vicky to stay and is like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. Also, David is deducing that, hey, Bill must have been murdered. My crystal ball was right because ghosts don't haunt things unless they were murdered.
Which isn't true.
I also don't believe that that is true.
Carolyn is trying to convince Vicky that all the ghost business was a dream, but Vicky insists that she knows what happened. And here, Carolyn, why don't you read my written account of my ghost sighting here in my journal? Carolyn is a little more convinced when she learns that the ghost sang,
What shall we do with the drunken sailor?
in the hallway.
Creepy old Matthews changing the lock on the door to the
And
closed
David
rooms.
comes across him doing this, and Matthew is explaining to David that, well, your Aunt Elizabeth told me that Miss Winters somehow locked herself in there when she was sneaking around.
And
And
he's
David's like,
"Is that
yeah,
what she said?
yeah.
Oh, yeah, must be true. Yep, that is exactly what must have happened."
Carolyn begs Vicky to stay some more. In the hallway, David suggests to Matthew that before he finishes changing that lock, the rug on the stairs was loose and someone could trip and die, so he should go look at that first. So Matthew wanders off, and David is clearly up to something, but I'm not sure what. Vicky explains to Carolyn that the ghost said his murderer was someone who lives in Collinsport and they were also going to kill Vicky. They decide to sneak into the closed wing, I guess also to look for ghost evidence, and David watches them go in. And then he goes to snoop in Vicky's room and read her ghost story, which he reads out loud.
Back in the hallway, Matthew is fixing the door again, and David is like, could people get out of there if they were in there? Because I guess he saw them go in. I don't know if we noted that.
We did.
I didn't. I spaced out for a second because I was reading my own notes. Sorry. He tells Matthew about Malloy and the ghost of Malloy, and Matthew freaks
He
out.
gets suspiciously upset
Yeah.
about this.
He's
Why could he be so bothered?
Yeah, Matthew is acting weird, and is like, "Murder? No, it was an accident. They said it was an accident. No murderers here." He's being really, really sketchy. David tries to get him to go see the ghosts, and Matthew is like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm out," and he leaves.
In what was formerly Ghost Jail, Vicky and Carolyn are going in, and Vicky is shocked to find that the ghost seaweed is gone. Carolyn tries again to convince her, well, it must have been a dream then, because see, there's no seaweed here. And Vicky decides to demonstrate for Carolyn how she tried to get out.
This whole bit to me is just crazy because if I had been locked in a room, I would not go back to the room and then
Start
start
fiddling with the
fiddling with the
lock.
lock and potentially lock myself back in the room like that. I was just sitting there going, "Girl,
Yeah,
what is that?"
if
That's
her
weird.
demonstration had worked, she would, or yeah, she would
Yeah.
have been locked in the room.
I guess maybe she left it unlocked,
Yeah,
but
maybe.
I don't know.
Vicky shows Carolyn how she tried to get the key under the door, but couldn't because the key was too fat, but this time it works. And that is confusing, and so Vicky is confused.
And Carolyn's like, "Well, maybe they wanted you to be stuck in there."
I guess Ghost Bill made the door bigger for ghost reasons, but
Made the
I don't think we're
groceries.
I don't think we ever get any bigger explanation
Well,
on that.
other than perhaps Bill was helping her because Carolyn says right before, "Maybe you weren't supposed to get out or something." And then Liz realizes that the paper she's holding is a ledger.
Liz is not there. This is Vicky.
Vicky.
She asks Carolyn if she knows who Garner and Garner are. And Carolyn's like, oh yeah, that's mom's lawyers. Vicky is real interested in this because this paper is a ledger with an entry for the name B. Hanscom.
It's also for Liz's accounts in Bangor.
Ah, and this is the lady from Sam's painting, if you don't remember, the one what looked exactly like Vicky. So Carolyn and Vicky leave Ghost Jail and find David sitting creepily in Vicky's room, waiting for them to return. He proclaims his love for Vicky also creepily and
'Cause
then
they're
runs away.
Ghost twins.
And then what?
Well, and then Carolyn is like, "He told me he loved this kitten he had in Augusta once." And Vicky's like, "And what happened to it?" And she's like, "He drowned it." And that's it. It's like, David's gonna drown you.
Dark triad
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Anyway, end credits. So what did you think about these episodes?
They were very entertaining, even though we sort of discussed that nothing of
Nothing
note
much
happened. It still was kind of fun. Like there was the romance dramas happening, and I like the romance.
I am
And
invested in
Joe and
Maggie
Maggie.
and Joe.
Joe,
and
Maggie, Joe, go Maggie and Joe.
I am less invested in Carolyn and Burke.
Yeah, like Burke is obviously
Although
using
they deserve
her.
each other. Maybe
Yeah.
they should get together.
Yeah, Burke is kind of a jerk to be playing with her feelings, although her feelings are fickle as the day is long anyway. You know, the ghost stuff and baby murderer David is fun, and I'm ready for more ghost stuff, but I am excited that we are having more ghost talk. I like the spookiness and the ghosts. I want to see more. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I had fun with you.
Yes.
I always do. Well, if you've had fun with us, you know what you
Leave
should
us
do.
reviews and ratings on the listening platform of your choice. Follow
Also-
us on Instagram at Ghosts Want You Dead. Ready your wallets to give us money.
Ghost want your money.
That might be what we should call the Patreon.
I think that is exactly. We need to make a note of that.
Yeah, well,
Well, we're making
let's
it. a
wrap
note
it
of
up.
that.
Okay. Well,
See you next week.
that's our usual stuff.
Bye.